There's been movement on Donald Trump's cases with a superseding indictment from the special counsel, which means that Jack Smith had to present the evidence to a brand new grand jury. And like the previous one, these regular Americans weighing the evidence believe there might be something here against Donald Trump. And so let's have an actual case. And I want you to remember that, because the right wingers who are currently mid-meltdown over the fact that we maybe someday will get to an actual trial would have you believe that this is not the normal path of our criminal justice system. It's election interference, this, communism, that, whatever. Now, Donald Trump is having the biggest meltdown, and we will get to him. There's a lot there, but let's just start with the appetizers, I guess. We have Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who tweeted, Biden-Harris appointee Jack Smith is continuing his tyrannical lawfare against President Trump with a brand new indictment. The Democrat Party, it's the Democratic Party, now led by Kamala Harris, it's still by Joe Biden, wants to put every one of their political opponents in jail and ruin lives. Under Democrat rule, America is a communist country. They hate Republicans and will stop at nothing to put every single one of us in jail. It's sickening. Like, we're not trying to lock up a bunch of people. Like, who's talking about locking up Marjorie Taylor Greene? I understand that the main currency on the right is I'm a victim too. I'm so dangerous and such a victim that they're gonna lock me up. No, none of that is happening. It's Donald Trump, because he committed a bunch of crimes in plain view. He did all of it where people could see, and it's still an open question as to whether he'll ever end up in jail. But if he does, it's because of the crimes. It's not because of the appointee Jack Smith or Biden or Harris. It's just how things are supposed to work.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
Now, it's not just her complaining. Ronnie Jackson, who I guess was once a doctor and is now kind of a congressman, tweeted, witch hunt. He's on a pill bender. Everybody go easy on him. Despite a Supreme Court ruling that granted total immunity, corrupt Jack Smith will do nothing to get Trump. Election interference. We will win in November. Of all the sentences in this to not have an exclamation point, why does that one not have an exclamation point? Are you not excited about winning? Anyway, President Trump will make America great again. So it didn't grant total immunity. I mean, it granted way too much immunity. You almost have the God Emperor that you want, but we're not quite there yet, Ronnie Jackson. So calm down, drink some fluids, let the toxins leave your system, because you're a whole lot of stuff right now and I can't deal with it. But as I said, their meltdowns are nothing compared to the king of meltdowns, the guy who taught them all how to have a meltdown on social media. That is Donald Trump. To give you a little taste of how he's processing these small legal developments, here's a look at his recent Truth Social activity. It's just post after post after post after post, and so many links to Fox News clips that every single one of his followers has already seen. It's just, and it's memes, and it's just bad fonts and bad graphic design, and it's so much. It's a coup d'etat, everyone, a coup d'etat. Here's an AI image of him praying because he won't just take a real one. And my God, it's so much stuff. And he's not doing well with the whole thing, obviously. He's just posting and posting. But one of his posts, I think this is actually the first of his mass retweets that he did, is my favorite, actually. And so we're gonna focus on this one, where he retweeted Dingus, who said, "You're a convicted felon. You shouldn't be anywhere near a campaign trail. You're going to prison." Retruthed by Donald J. Trump, and I love it. So apparently not everybody on Truth Social is a big supporter of his, or at least they have a weird way of showing it. But that's one of the things that he spread. And we're not gonna go through all of his Truth Social posts. A lot of it is repetitive nonsense about lawfare, us being a banana republic, and stuff about Hunter Biden, who, by the way, is also being investigated. By the way, his special counsel wasn't overturned, even though it was appointed in the exact same process as his was that they're trying to overturn. So he might well go to jail, and yet that's not balanced for some reason. And the fact that the DOJ is now corrupt, even though according to Donald Trump, in his truth storm, it's Kamala Harris, I guess, that's in charge of the DOJ, not Donald Trump. again, it's just nonsense. We'll get to one of his posts that contains a little bit of new stuff, Sharon, but it's a lot. What do you think?
He's on a rager, but none of this should be any surprise. Remember, Donald Trump and some of his minions picked it up, compared himself to Navalny. He said that he too was being treated like a political prisoner, which has a whole nother thing when you factor in that Putin is the one who was doing it. He's a crybaby, a whiner, an AI aficionado in the worst way. And what can we do about it? As far as former Dr. Jackson, now congressperson, I hope he gets the help he needs, but it's going to require IV at this point. He can't just take fluids by mouth. He needs inpatient and IV. Mm-hmm. And what you speak of is, the stories, the hearings, we know what was going on under the hood with him. But the president's not far off from that. And his is not apparently induced by narcotics.
Yeah. I think IV fluid's great idea. I think probably purging his stomach might stem some of the future damage, I think. But look, the reason I think that we're going pretty hard on Ronnie Jackson is I think that I have been remiss in my duties as a watchdog of the insane right, that we haven't focused enough on him. Like, we talk about, Marjorie Greene, Lauren Boebert, they're crazy people, but Ronnie Jackson is arguably crazier than Lauren Boebert. And he was in the White House, and he's the guy that told us that Donald Trump weighs a trim 235 or whatever. Like, can you imagine if the people that we looked up to on our side were 5% as crazy as the stuff they put out that most people don't even notice? So anyway, as you say, he's not dealing well with it. You'll notice, by the way, that Donald Trump, finding out that there's this superseding indictment, his reaction to it is not, here is my legal argument for why I don't think that I broke the law. There's nothing like that. Bear in mind, Donald Trump is doing an awards gala to raise money for the people that stormed the Capitol. Like right now. Like, there's no distance. You would think you'd want to produce a little bit of distance between you and the foot soldiers of your coup. But no, he's hugging them ever closer because he's in kind of like, he's between a rock and a crazy place where, like, it doesn't look good to embrace the people who tried to, break open the skulls of cops as you did the coup you're now saying you didn't do. And yet, he needs those supporters right now. The election's not going super well for him. Like, he wants his people to have his back, and I don't know that he's managing it necessarily that well. But that said, let's close with just one of his comments and see if there's anything new here. He says, in an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt. Why are you putting it in quotation marks? Is it dead or not? Because you're implying that it's not actually dead. Then just don't say that it's dead. You're making very weird rhetorical choices. Anyway, in an act of desperation and in order to save face, the illegally appointed special counsel. He's a special counsel, that's what he is. Again, quotes don't need to be. Did he accidentally buy quotes in like bulk at Sam's Club and he's just trying to offload them or something? Anyway, he's brought a ridiculous new capital I indictment against me, which has all the problems of the old indictment. But no, it doesn't actually. Look, the old problems shouldn't have been problems, but from the perspective of the Supreme Court, I can understand how they might be problems with the fact that we now kind of have a king. And so they edited it. So like by definition, it doesn't have all of the old problems. That's why it's the new indictment, which by the way, was equally compelling to the new grand jury. You'll notice he leaves that out. He goes on to say his Florida document hoax case has been completely dismissed, which is kind of true. It's a bit of an overstatement and we do get to appeal it, but this is merely an attempt to interfere with the election and distract the American capital P people from the catastrophes Kamala Harris has inflicted on our nation. Like all the stuff that I said was singularly the responsibility of Joe Biden a month ago, but now I guess Kamala was in charge all along, I suppose. And again, it's election interference, dear viewers, because it's happening close to the election. And that is the case because he's dragged it out and dragged it out and dragged it out. We could have already been done with this like a year or two ago. And if you're a conservative watching this, I know that you don't want that because deep down in your tum-tum, you know that Donald Trump did these things and you're worried he might go to jail. But even if that worst case scenario happened, that would have meant you would have had more than enough time to choose another Republican. Hell, you guys are all up on JD Vance these days. Maybe it could have been JD Vance that'd be your nominee. And you wouldn't have to worry about the election interference because JD Vance, apparently, at least so far as we know right now, hasn't broken any laws. He's just said a whole lot of stupid stuff, and we will get to that later in the show, but they would have been in a better position, and the American people, whether Republican or Democrat, would have known what was actually going on. And I would have preferred that, Sharon. But any final thoughts before we break?
Well, you're right about the other side. Some people don't want information, though. You said deep down, they know. They don't want there to be any revelations here. Let's just keep the lid on this thing, and let's just keep going in our little insane bubbles. That's what they actually want. I'm not so sure. I know there's nothing on the books about JD, but I'm not so sure. As they keep going back and back and back, and they repurpose some of the things that he said, he sounds like, and I don't want to get the network in trouble, but look, I watch a lot of serial killer stuff. I'm not saying he's one, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you can go far back and they did some things and they said some things and they thought some things. So I don't know what he's done or hasn't done. Let's say he's a swell guy with some issues. I can't make that same statement that you made emphatically. And again, these are my opinions. Don't come after TYT. And I have nothing, so don't come after me either.
That we know of. There might have been
qualify it.
Yes, there might have been crimes against couches that we don't currently know, but we'll see. We'll see. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.